I'd like to call the meeting to order. Order, please. Members, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to meeting number 29 of the Economic Development Committee. I'd like to welcome members of the committee, as well as I saw some non-committee members. Members, I'd like to ask you to perhaps take a seat, please, so that we can get the meeting started. I'd like to, as I said, welcome the members of the committee, and also there's a few members that are here. They're not members of the committee, but they're here. So for those of you who are in the room with us, there's a screen at the back to my right, and that screen provides real-time update for the items that are coming up next and or where we are on the agenda. You can also follow us at home, or if you're in your office, on your computer and or tablet or your smartphone at www.toronto.ca/council. The Economic Development Committee gratefully acknowledges its meeting on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the new First Nation and the Haudenosaunee, as well as the Huondat. This is the home of many diverse people, and the Indigenous people have been here for many centuries. So we acknowledge that we are actually meeting on the traditional territories here. Members, moving right along, are there any conflict of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none, okay, that's great. I'd like to ask for confirmation of the minutes from the April 13 meeting. Councillor Grimes, all those in favor, opposed, that's carried. We have a number of speakers, presenters.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Pardon me?
Point of order.
Point of order? Yes, Councillor Grimes.
If I may, recognize our good friend, Deputy Mayor Joe Pantalone was just here. What happened to him? He just left? Oh, he just left. I just saw him there. He turned around.
Yeah, I was going to do that, but I saw him left.
Oh, you
but
saw him? Okay, well, he just ducked out on us. So I just want to recognize our friend.
Well, you'll do it when he comes back. How's
okay,
that?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor Grimes. All right, members, communication report. I have an additional item that I will add at the end of the items that are listed on the agenda. ED 29.1. Meeting many needs, advancing Toronto's workforce development and poverty reduction strategy for the 2017 annual report. We're going to hold that down. Ms. Walcott will come at the appointed time to present her annual report, and I'm looking forward to that. We just had a press conference where we introduced the annual report. We talked about specific areas of it. The area that I was really interested in is the participation, collaboration between other public services areas, particularly the fire department, in that we have been able to create an opportunity for a number of our residents who are on Ontario Works, that they've been able to transition through the program. The city's been able to pay some of the fees through Centennial College and so on, and that I think that is a tremendous opportunity, especially for those people who've had dreams of becoming firefighters and were not able to afford the cost of participating in the program. And I note that Deputy Chief Debbie Higgins, who was with us for the press conference, continues to be with us for this particular meeting, and I'm delighted that you're here with us, Deputy Chief Higgins, and we will look forward to hearing from you a little later on, so we'll hold this item down. Moving right along, ED 29.2, Business Improvement Area, BIA initiatives in traditional industrial areas. We will hold this for a presentation. Lou Pillman is here, and Mr. Tanis is here as well from the Dukes Height BIA, and I know that they're accompanied by former Deputy Mayor Pantalone, and I will allow Councillor Grimes to reintroduce him when he comes back into the room. So we will hold that item for presentation. All right. Would you? Well, I don't see him. Oh, there he is. Okay. So, Councillor Grimes, you had a point of order initially. I will now recognize your point of order. So the floor is.
I just want to recognize our good friend, former Deputy Mayor Joe Pantaloni. I turned around, he was there, and then he was gone. So just to welcome Joe back to City Hall. Always great to see you.
Deputy Mayor, former Deputy Mayor, welcome back to City Hall. Big round of applause, actually.
Yes. Stay in your seat, Joe.
Moving right along, ED 29.3, Argentina-Mexico Advanced Trade Mission 2018. What say you members of the committee? Okay, Councillor Hart's moving adoption of the report. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much, Councillor Hart. ED 29.4, Green Market Acceleration Program. Councillor Grimes moving the item. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. ED 29.5, 2018 Cultural Build Allocations. Councillor Frakadakis is moving the item. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. ED 29.6, 2018 Grants to Specialized Collections Museum Allocation. What say we? Councillor Frakadakis is moving that item. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. ED 29.7, 2018 Local Arts Service Organization, LASOs, grant allocation. Councillor Grimes, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you, members. Moving right along, ED 29.8, Major Cultural Organization, 2018 Allocation. What say members? Councillor Frakadakis is moving the item. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. You are absolutely right, Councillor. Congratulations to the staff on continuing to write great reports. Mr. Williams, could you ensure that our thanks to your staff is conveyed to them, please, for the excellent report? All right, so, but we want to do it twice, Mr. Williams, from us and to you. ED 29.9, options for film studios infrastructure. What say you, members? Okay. Councillor and Deputy Chair Holland is moving that items. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. ED 29.10, Toronto Film, Television Media, Digital Media Board 2017 Year in Review. And what say you, members? Move a receipt of the adopt the item. Okay, Councillor Frakadakis, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. ED 2911, we have a speaker. Liz Driver, Director, Curator, Campbell House Museum is here, so we will hold that item. And then ED 29.12, which is the Toronto Economic Bulletin. What say you, member? Councillor Hart is moving adoption of the item. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Members, you have a, I'm not sure if we call this pink anymore, but it's a pinkish sheet, fuchsia, that's right. Okay. On your desk, it's a new item from myself, presentation from Responsible Hospitality Institute. We have some members who are from out of town. I know that I think San Francisco and Amsterdam are here with us, and I would like members to add this particular item as a new item for business. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Item is added. Additionally, members, I would then like to ask us to vary the agenda because the presenters who are here from the Responsible Hospitality Institute, and I don't have all the names, but I think they will come up at the appropriate at this sheet. Okay, thank you. Okay, that's good. Thank you. I'd like to ask that we do this item first, which is the Responsible Hospitality Institute, as the members have to go to a 2 o'clock meeting, which is quite some distance away from here, and then we would go back to the beginning and have Ms. Walcott's presentation, ED 29.1. All those in favor? Councillor?
Good, Mr. Speaker, Chair. Number 11 seems to only have one speaker. If we're going to reorder the paper, can we have the presentation on the new business and then move that and then ask the one speaker if they would instead of waiting till the end, given that it's only one person.
Yes, that's a good idea. We could do that. Ms. Driver, are you here? You're here. You'd be okay in terms of speaking. We'd like to get you out faster so you can get back to the museum, get back to work. Okay. Excellent. All right. So, and I'm sure you probably support the recommendations. Okay, great. Thank you. That makes it even easier. Okay, Councillor, we will do that in that order then, if that's okay with members. Okay? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. All right. So thank you. I'm then going to ask the members from RHI who will be presenting to us. Jim Peters, President, RHI, Merrick Milan, Senior Consultant, RHI, and Joyce Kane, Senior Consultant, RHI, speaking. And I think you have, is Spencer going to be sitting at the table with you, or is he? Is there room? I think if there's room at the table, you should come up with the group, Spencer, please. All right, we'll get you all set up. So, members, you know, we've been talking a lot about the night economy for Toronto and how we're going to put in place a structure that is going to deal with how we collaborate and how we address some of the issues around the nighttime economy. Our economy is no longer simply 9 to 5. It is more 24/7 city operational. We have a variety of cities around the world who have implemented and introduced concepts like night mayors, night ambassadors, and so on. And I know that we are actually quite happy to have a representative from RHI with us today, because they've done a lot of work around the globe. There's a lot of expertise and so on, working with our staff and so on. And Mr. Sharma, who is our lead on, Alok Sharma, who is our lead on this particular file, is here. I know we had some meetings this morning and so on, and we would like now to welcome you to the committee to ask you to present your overview with respect to this particular issue. So you may begin. Mr. Peters.
Hello, my name is Jim Peters. I'm the president of the Responsible Hospitality Institute. We're a private non-governmental organization that I helped found in 1983. My work here in Toronto dates back to those late 80s, early 90s, working on the whole idea of training people who work in bars and restaurants. And in fact, Barry Tucker, who at the time was with the alcohol committee with Toronto, and I collaborated on the reform of the 1992 or so Licensing Act. But our organization is one that's based in California. We're a small staff organization, but we have a wide reach. Over the past decade, almost 20 years, we've organized what we call a hospitality zone assessment. We've done this in 70 North American cities, including 3 in Canada. Windsor was one of our first. Calgary and Edmonton are 2 others. What this project is a formal evaluation of our process. Diageo, which is the London-based company, has been a major supporter of some of these initiatives, but they wanted us to do a more formal evaluation on a global level. So there are 4 cities. Dublin is the 2nd city, and then there will be 2 Spanish-speaking cities that will be a part of this project. This is really a service that we provide to cities. We just completed Orlando and Fort Lauderdale among the more recent cities. And it really constitutes about $100,000 value in terms of the services that we're providing. And this program will occur over 18 months. We talk about a hospitality zone and what some refer to as an entertainment district, but as you have more residential development coming into close proximity of public space activities, I think those are the types of challenges that cities face. But the common underlying attraction to these areas is the social experience. So we're really talking about sociability and helping cities to develop a social plan, kind of a master plan for sociability. What we've learned in all of this work is that these hospitality or entertainment areas evolve from emerging and developing areas, often in kind of areas that are underdeveloped or undeveloped or have previously been something other than what they are now. And you have entrepreneurs who bring in dining establishments or music venues, and that creates kind of a vibrancy that helps to expand that area. And then that matures, you have more established businesses and more integration of daytime retail and professional services. And then if it's not properly managed and planned, it evolves into a challenged area, or an area that might, one, because of residential development, be related to sound issues, or an increase in density of people could result in crime and disorder. So we try to look at each of these as stages and to develop a process where cities can assess where they're at now, look at how they currently manage a lot of these different issues, and then how to create a blueprint to create these sustainable alliances and working groups to anticipate and plan for better coordination of resources. The global project itself is a transnational initiative to really demonstrate what we use as a team building and action planning process. We have 4 aims, and they're on the handouts that you have. But essentially, it's to really advocate for the social, cultural, and economic value of dining and entertainment, which I'm sure is critical to this body, but also to look at ways to improve allocation of resources, look at any policies that need to be updated, as well as ensure public safety, reduce crime and harm, while minimizing quality of life impacts. And then to keep that communication between government and businesses and community better coordinated. The people that we have involved in this particular project, 3 of them are seated here. We'll also be involving Allison Harnden, who now is the nighttime economy manager for the city of Pittsburgh. And she worked with RHI for 20 years and was involved in dozens of the cities that we worked with. But to my left is Macarena Rao Vargas. She's the chair of the International Septet Association. She actually worked here in Toronto for 4 years with Robert Stevens. Some of you may know him from Scarborough, but he is one of the pioneers of the crime prevention through environmental design initiatives, and Macarena chairs the International Association. Jocelyn Kane, to the right, is the former executive director of the San Francisco Entertainment Commissions, which is one of the more progressive approaches to the coordination of the regulatory aspect of entertainment and licensing. To my right is Merrick Milan, who's the former night mayor of Amsterdam. He pretty much single-handedly established the term night mayor and the concept throughout the world. I know last year he spoke in 30 international cities advocating this position, and then Allison Harnden, like I said, will be joining us in the future. So the assessment process leads to certain outcomes that really correlate with the recommendations from the committee report that came out. The first that we've seen as an important outcome and something that's gaining momentum throughout the world is having dedicated staff. And when we look at dedicated staff, it's not just one single person like a night mayor or night manager, but rather individuals in key divisions who really embrace and understand the value of the nighttime economy and work within their capacity to organize the tools and resources to manage hospitality zone development. One of the outcomes that we will do here is to help create and design a job description was recommended in the report. The second, we feel, and something that we advocate for, is a citywide alliance, whether it be organized formally within the city structure or informally through the same kind of structure that's in Amsterdam, which is a public-private alliance. But it really is something for the city to consider, since the city itself is such an important destination for tourism. And also it's a growing city, and in terms of its technology sector and all the other industry sectors, the growth of residential and also the management of the various cultures which make Toronto such a unique place. And it's the merging and the fusion of these cultures that I think is going to be a key outcome. Also looking at data collection, not only looking at crime and harm, but also looking at street-level audits to determine the best mix of day, evening, and late-night activity, and to develop a framework for an economic, fiscal, and community impact study. So these are the outcomes, and our process is built around these 4 building blocks. First, having an alliance where sociability and the social economy is really an important component of the city's planning. We look at planning for people, which is transportation and quality of life, assuring safety from the continuum of permitting and licensing to the actual operations of the venues and the role that they play in self-regulation, and looking at vibrancy, including like this week's music festival that brings the entertainment both within the public space and into private venues. So these are the 4 building blocks that we really work with. And then we have a process, and today's meeting and our visit here is engagement. On Monday, there'll be a strategic team convened that will help oversee the implementation. We'll come back with an orientation and seminars for all the participants, and then a series of 6 roundtables to really drill down into the specific tactical recommendations. This will lead to an action plan that will be presented at a summit, as well as a structure to phase in the implementation. Central to the outcome of this process that we've learned that really there's an integration of these elements, quality of life, mobility, public safety, venue safety, entertainment, and public space. And it's these elements that we really will try to gather information. We've already gathered a lot just in our short time here as to how the City of Toronto is currently working in each of these areas, what the strengths are, what's working well, how can make what's working well better, but also how to fill some gaps to make improvements. And again, looking at quality of life and noise control or sound management, mobility with the e-hail companies like Uber and Lyft and how they fit into the nighttime transportation plan, how your new trolleys and streetcars and how they could be extended to service the nighttime economy. And I want to emphasize the nighttime economy is not just the people who work in bars and restaurants and their patrons, but you have many people who work in hospitals, who are in maintenance of buildings, all of the people who work in the distribution of goods that drive trucks. These are all key. Public safety, venue safety, entertainment, and public space are all of the areas that we'll be focusing in on and ultimately leading to a action plan in each of these 3 specific areas. 10 seconds over my time, but I think...
Thank you very much. We're appreciative of you keeping on track and so on. I was going to give you another minute, actually.
So if I had known...
Absolutely. All right, so maybe through questioning, members, questions. Councillor Hart. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Just have a question about the Amsterdam experience and the nightmare in Amsterdam. Can you tell me what the key achievements were?
Yes, thank you for giving this opportunity to speak here. Key achievements in Amsterdam. So in Amsterdam we have worked on a similar project we're doing here. Key achievements were for our hospitality district was a 30% decline of 30% decline of reports of nuisance of any sort, littering, not using a toilet, antisocial behavior, and a 25% decline of alcohol-related violence for our main entertainment district called Rembrandtplein. That is a big accomplishment, and I actually have the chairman of a city resident group on tape saying this project changed his life.
Just one follow-up question. Over what period of time did those declines occur?
There was a 3-year pilot project. We are now in the 2nd year, so already 2 years down, we already have some significant change.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hart. Any further questions? Okay, just have a few, actually. Mayor, the people who are involved through it's a committee, I understand. Give us an overview in terms of how the structure works in Amsterdam, because I understand that there's the mayor's office, but also you have a group of individuals. Some of them are operators of venues and so on, and you also go through a process in terms of how the night mayor is selected. So maybe if you can just give us an overview, please.
Yeah. So in Amsterdam, the night mayor is an independent non-for-profit. So it helps to ensure that the city of Amsterdam has a dynamic and vibrant nightlife. We really want to bridge the gap between the municipality, so mayor and city councillors, small business owners like nightclubs and festivals, but also city residents. we always say is by having a dialogue, you can change the rules of the game. I'm a direct advisor to the mayor of Amsterdam. We are public-private funded, so that means that the door of the mayor's office is always open to us. But also, I think what took me the most time is to explain to operators that if we're an independent organization, we will be more valuable to them to being just another association or a lobby group. And really bridging this gap between both sides is really important because you can't change issues which you have at night. You can't change it by yourself. Safety is created by building community, and safety often comes from mobility as well. And these are issues which you would have, of course, during your nighttime economy, and really by working together, you can create this change.
So I guess I'll ask Mr. Sutherland a question. Given the fact that as part of the panel, you are the only person who operates a business in Toronto as part of the space, and you've been very instrumental in this concept and bringing it forward and so on. What is your perspective in terms of the presentation that's been given by RHI and the work that's going to be done by Mr. Sharma and our team here? Is it your sense that RHI is going to do the work, or is it your sense that we're learning from RHI as part of a process, best practices and so on, and that will formulate part of the report that's going to come forward? I'd just like to have your perspective on that.
Well, the staff report that came to this committee already, with a number of recommendations, includes, of course, to set out an action plan for the nighttime economy and to develop long-term strategic planning for that. And I think what we have here is some of the best international talent in this field, with decades of experience. And I think rather than reinventing the wheel, we can learn from the success stories in other cities and figure out how we can adapt that to reflect the DNA of our city, but without having to start from scratch. So I think that we are very lucky to be a part of this global project, and to have the talent here with us today, and they'll be coming back and working with us over the course of the next 18 months.
Right. I guess the other question I have, there has been some question around what you call, let's say, somebody who's sort of you were the night mayor in Amsterdam. There's a new night mayor now. We were there recently. We met with some of the teams there and so on. And so it's not nightmare, but it's not nightmare, correct? Yeah. As I understand through the consultation that has occurred here, some people have said, well, we don't like that name because it sounds like a nightmare at nighttime. And then there's perhaps some other names. What are some of the other names that are appropriate? And is it necessary to have essentially a central person that one would sort of focus on as part of the administrative aspect of this concept of having the night economy being so specifically featured?
Yeah. What I always hope is, or what I always say is that at least I hope you will remember the story the next day when it comes to the nightmare part. It's really about having this collaborative approach, working together, taking ownership, because that's what we always say. We always say that, like, the operators in the scene, they have to take ownership and they have to work together with the city. We are just handing out ideas and best practices that we have picked up over the years. In my opinion, it's all about speaking in one voice. It's unifying the industry and creating a common vision, creating a common discourse together with the city, so you can really work in an alliance. There are a lot of different titles. London, we have given advice to Sadiq Khan and the mayor's office in London. They call it the Night Tsar for the same reason. They didn't want to call it the Nightmare. So New York, now we also have given advice to the mayor's office of media and entertainment in New York as well. They call it the Office of Nightlife. So there's many, many ways to set it up. Of course, the Entertainment Commission in San Francisco, there's many, many ways to set it up. But my advice would always to have at least one person you can address to, that you don't get multiple opinions, and to have one target person is a good way to go. But it's all about, it doesn't, sorry to finish, it's not about installing the role, it's the vision behind it that counts.
And I'd like to add to that, I think there are so many different dimensions and so many different divisions within the city that may not have a staff person who's really focusing in on nighttime coordination. I think whether it be within transportation planning or whether it be public works and use of public space or outdoor cafes, whether it be parking, there are a lot of different areas of the city that only operate on the traditional 9 to 5, and the staff is only working Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So what we've seen with cities like Fort Lauderdale, where they've incorporated into their new budget dedicated staff from each of these different agencies who will be assigned to work at least periodically at night. I think within police departments, you're beginning to see a dedicated, not only command staff, but also officers. Edmonton, DC, other cities have comprehensive 3-day training for police officers who work at night. So I think the vision of having one individual who will solve all of these issues is short-sighted. I think you need a collaborator that can bring all these different people together that have this role, but not necessarily see it as one person.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any further questions to the panel? Okay, seeing no further questions, I would like to thank the panel. To speak, anyone to speak? Councillor Hart? No? Okay, no one else? All right, I will just simply say this. I enjoyed our conversation this morning. I enjoyed your presentation here today. I'm delighted to recognize that we have an opportunity to work with an organization like RHI and the talent that you actually have with you. And the work that you've done in 70 cities around the globe. And I think this is extremely important. This is an area that we are now starting to pay some attention to. Our staff is working in collaboration with the community, and I understand we are going to be working with you as well moving forward. And so Mr. Sharma and his team will, in 2019, a report will be brought back. You're absolutely right in terms of the different levels of service and the integration that has to take place in order to fully encompass a very efficient night economy that is, well, not only resource, but well functioning and attention to some of the details and some of the things right now we're challenged with. I note that what I hear often with the media on this issue is about drinking and simply about the confusion about people coming out of clubs and so on and so forth, but that's not the issue. There are elements of things that needs to be addressed. That's one element, but it isn't simply about extending bar hours and operation. It is about how we collaborate. We're now having, in particular cities around the world, where you have a multi-faceted elements where you have residential adjacent to commercial and so on and so forth. So it's the question is, how do you deal with the issue around noise? How do you deal with the issue around disbursement, people coming out of facilities? You pointed out and all these things already, but just reinforce what you said. How do you deal with the whole mobility, transportation, and so on? One of the things that we discussed this morning, for example, we have a number of our residents who are people with disabilities and so on, but also want to be out having fun and enjoying the nightlife and the nighttime economy and so on. We want to make sure that we address their needs and the issues as well. And so all of these things, so it's not just the able-bodied individual per se that is going to be going downtown and, you know, maybe drinking, and as people like to focus this attention on drinking and creating a ruckus, if you will. That's not the case. What we're talking about is how we deal with that 24/7 hours of operation for major cities. If we are in this major city loop, which we are, economic development, everything else that we do, recognized around the globe, we attract a lot of tourism and so on. And how do we make those accommodations? And how do we collaborate and work with industry in order to ensure we have a smooth process in the course of the nighttime economy? So I'm looking forward to your continued involvement with respect to our team, and I want to thank you very much for coming to present today. Okay, and I'm going to move members that we receive the the presentation for information, and I know that Mr. Sharman and his team are already working with the group, but I wanted to ensure that they were able to come. It just so happened that we were having committee today, that they're here just to hear from them directly. So thank you very much for your time. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
For the opportunity.
Elect with you are the meeting. Thank you. Okay, moving right along. We are going to ask Councillor Holland, members, has a request, and it's present. You wanted to inform us on a initiative that was moved at council in the last council session, and so I will turn the floor over to you for a minute while the staff set up for the next item, which is ED 29.1. Councillor Holland? Sorry, we'll go to the presentation from, yes, Mr. River. Yes, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and with the indulgence of the committee, I'm just going to update everybody on Digital Literacy Day and really want to thank staff. So as most of you know, that I moved a motion last year to declare Digital Literacy Day, and we came up with the date, which is May 31st. So that will be at the end of this month. It'll be the first annual Digital Literacy Day, and it's the first of its kind, but we can see it spreading now throughout the province. We've heard a lot of feedback from other municipalities and from the province itself, and actually from the federal level as well. A lot of interest there in having Digital Literacy Day and what that means. So I just want to first thank staff, Economic Development, Susan Viega, and all of the staff with Economic Development. Pat Walcott's here with Tess. Amazing work that Tess and your involvement and all the work that you've done with Digital Literacy Day, and really all the work that you do every day in and out. And you've been such a phenomenal advisor, and the impact that you're going to have on Digital Literacy Day. So we really recognize the work that you do. And also with Vickery Bowles, and who's our CEO of the Toronto Public Library, phenomenal work. You just can't underestimate the work that's really been undertaken with Tess and our library leads in transformation. So libraries, as we know, are quickly becoming very transformative hubs, and the new place where people are going to congregate in the future with the advancing innovation ecosystem and the new technology. So it's really, really amazing work that we're all doing here at the city, and we want everyone to know, Councillor Thompson and myself, and many there was a very amazing delegation that we had to Smart Cities in Barcelona last year, and it was quite informational, and the information that we took back to the city, and also the fact that we're already leading in many areas within technology and innovation, so it was really great to see. So I just want everyone to know that there's about 115 workshops that are taking place that day, and 60 different venues. It's very similar to Doors Open Toronto, very, very similar. So you will, any councillors that want to get involved with it, you will definitely find a corporation or a nonprofit or not-for-profit in your area that will be involved with DLD. And the theme is connecting to opportunity. That's the theme that we all came up with, which is all about connecting to this new opportunity that's with the innovation economy that's upon us. And the idea is also to target all ages and socioeconomic groups. So for example, CIBC, in every single one of their branches across the city, will be engaging seniors with online banking and cybersecurity. So all the way to girls in coding and educating kids even in cybersecurity. There's so many things happening this day that it's quite, I would be here all day telling you about it. So I just, again, we really want to thank all of our staff, our different divisions and departments that have been actively involved in it and making it such a success. And to the chair and really to the committee as well. You're very fully aware of it, and I think it's going to be a really successful day. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Councillor Holland. And I think it's perhaps also a good time to mention our success just last week in New Orleans, where we, through our collaboration, we will be bringing a new tech conference to Toronto to be called Collision, and they will be coming in as of 2019 for 3 years. There'll be 30,000 people coming as part of that tech conference on an annual. It's happening well at the Endocare Center at CNE Exhibition Place, and that exhibitions place and CNE grounds. The grounds. They will bring in $147 million to the city's economy. That will be the economic impact to our city. So I'm very proud to hear that. Thank you. All right, so moving right along, members, we're going to go to ED 29.11, sustaining the vibrancy of Campbell House Museum, and Councillor Frakadakis had asked that we vary the agenda, which makes perfect sense. I'd like to now ask Liz Driver, Director, Curator, Campbell House Museum, to come forward. Ms. Driver, you have 5 minutes to speak, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, members of the committee, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak on behalf of the motion. I've been the Director Curator of Campbell House for 10 years now. Today I'd like to describe Campbell House's current links with the City of Toronto and also comment on why the property and house at 160 Queen West is such a significant city asset. In 2022, Campbell House will be 200 years old and will have occupied the northwest corner of Queen and University for 50 years. The house is important as one of the oldest buildings in the city, as an outstanding example of Georgian architecture, and of course for its association with the 6th Chief Justice of Upper Canada, William Campbell. Now, the extraordinary rescue of the house by the Advocate Society in 1972 from the east side of Yonge to its new place, it's a fascinating part of the history. But it's actually the building's current location that has unlocked so much potential for Campbell House and allowed it to become a new kind of historic house museum. The house is owned by the city, and the city's lease of that land from Canada Life goes to 2099. The city designated the house in 2010 to protect its cultural heritage value. The city supports the operation of Campbell House Museum in several ways, directly and indirectly. In terms of physical plant, Parks looks after the garden, shovels the snow, maintains the fence. They're also very supportive of our outdoor museum events and rental events. Every year, Facilities Management carries out a survey for hazardous materials. Solid Waste Management applies a charity waiver so we get our garbage picked up for free. From the cultural perspective, the museum receives an annual Community Partnership and Investment Program grant of about $37,000 administered by Museums and Heritage Services. This is the museum's second largest source of funding after the Advocate Society. Receipt of the grant requires that Campbell House programs, that their programs support the goals of Museum and Heritage Services. Campbell House Museum also collaborates with the city museums, and I'm especially excited about a project that is taking shape right now, a year-long exhibition in the Campbell House Garden of carved stones from Scarborough's Guild Park, an idea sparked by city staff. The exhibition will showcase the Guild Park collection downtown and demonstrate how these bits of old demolished Toronto buildings can animate urban space. For the past 4 years, the city has selected Campbell House as a venue for its curated Nuit Blanche installations. Indirectly, the city has supported the museum through Toronto Arts Council grants and through our partnership with the Queen Street West BIA. More indirectly, through the Toronto Arts Council's support of Scotiabank Contact Photography Festival, Campbell House is a primary exhibition this year and last. Overall, Campbell House Museum is incredibly active with theatre, concerts, exhibitions, lectures, and literary readings, all inspired by its heritage spaces and unique context in the downtown. City departments and committees also occasionally meet at the house, including the Toronto Music Industry Advisory Council this weekend. So I would like to conclude with this last idea, that it is the location of the property, coupled with its heritage, that is such an asset. This property occupies an extraordinary corner. It is effectively part of the City Hall precinct, at the west boundary of that low open area defined by University and Bay. From the garden and the ballroom windows, we see new City Hall, and we look across to old City Hall's clock tower. Together with the garden of Osgoode Hall, the property forms the southern terminus of University Avenue, a green park to match Queen's Park to the north. The property is on University Avenue, the city's route for celebration and protest. The property is the gateway to the Queen Street West BIA. And the property also provides a spectacular panorama of the downtown skyscrapers to the south. And this opens up a dialogue for conversations about the past, the present, and the future. So the motion before the committee is for the general manager to conduct a review of Campbell House in the interest of maintaining it for public use, which I support. I'd like to acknowledge the role of the Advocate Society with respect to this property.
Can you wrap up, please, Member, at 5 minutes?
It is because of their stewardship for almost 50 years that we can now plan a sustainable future for Campbell House for the rest of this century.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Rauner? Seeing none, thank you. Members wishing to speak on this particular item? Councillor Grimes moving the items. All those in favour? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. It's carried. Okay, moving right along. ED 29.1, meeting many needs, advancing Toronto's workforce development and poverty reduction strategy, 2018 annual report. Thank you. Ms. Walcott, you are no stranger to the podium. Let me know when you're ready. I'll start your time.
So thank you very much. Good afternoon, committee members, and thank you for the opportunity to present TESA's 2017 annual report. This comprehensive report, which I hope you have a copy of, yes, I see you have a copy, highlights the key activities and outcomes for TES for many of the city divisions, employers, and community organizations, and most critically for the thousands of city residents we serve. So as you see, I have a number of guests here, and before I turn it over to the guest speakers, I just want to call your attention to a few key elements in our annual report. So first of all, I'd like you to note the title of our report, which is Meeting Many Needs, Advancing Toronto's Workforce Development and Poverty Reduction Strategies. This title reflects an important new reality and opportunity. The reality is that the Ontario Works caseload in Toronto is increasingly made up of long-term, multi-barriered clients, clients who need different kinds of support to lead their best lives and to achieve greater financial independence. The opportunity refers to TESA's direct and quite frequent contact with so many of Toronto's lowest income residents. We are uniquely positioned to connect them to opportunities and supports. This annual report highlights how in many ways workforce development and poverty reduction can support each other to better address the complex needs of clients in a more sustainable way. Section 2 of this report provides a profile of our clients and the caseload we serve. In 2017, through our 19 locations, we served 108,000 cases, representing 188,000 individuals. 63% of whom were born outside of Canada. 42% have been on assistance for more than 2 years. 85% of whom report at least one barrier to employment. The clients and residents we support come to us with an array of skills, talents, educational levels, and qualifications. They also come to us with a variety of life circumstances and a need for various types and levels of interventions to support their path forward. As our report demonstrates, a path forward means different things to different people. For some, it means access to training or employment. For others, the first steps are a path towards getting connected to key health housing, childcare, or other life stabilization supports to address some aspects of living in deep poverty, and to create the foundation to pursuing education, training, and employment. So sometimes it makes sense to do all of these simultaneously. Our division recognizes that in times of rapid economic, technological, and labor market change, we need to continuously adapt our service delivery approach and programs to better meet the needs of our clients. So there's always more that can be done, but our annual report does show the strong progress we are making and the impact we are having on key areas, addressing clients' immediate needs and working with partners at the city and systems level to support an inclusive economic prosperity for Toronto's most vulnerable residents. The last section of the report speaks to our priorities and directions for 2018, work that is well underway and continues to demonstrate the evolution and enhancements to our programs, partnerships, and services. So finally, I really do want to take this opportunity to thank my fellow colleagues from Economic Development, from SDFA, from SSHA, from Children's Services, Fire Services, and Toronto Public Library. While this is TESS's annual report, we alone cannot take credit for all of these accomplishments. Our outcomes and programs that are highlighted here are really a reflection of our collaborative commitment to strengthening partnerships and collaboration efforts. So I want to thank all our colleagues and their dedicated staff for making this possible. And of course, I really want to thank the members of this committee for your continued support of our work. I see that every time I come here, for your leadership and for your approach of championing a vision for Toronto that sees a place in our city and an economy for everyone. It's still early in 2018, but together with our partners, we're off to a great start, as I said. For example, we have already implemented the first phase of the city's Fair Pass discount program, which is already benefiting more than 6,000 Toronto residents. We've successfully opened 2 co-located offices with the province's ODSP program, with a 3rd office scheduled to open later this summer. We've relocated our Chesswood office to the Yorkgate Mall at Jane and Finch, one of our highest needs communities. We've rolled out a new range of contracted employment programs, and we've expanded our dental services to ensure that we preserve front teeth, for example, and provided access to Toronto Public Health mobile dental bus for OW and ODSP clients. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our guest speakers. As I mentioned earlier in my remarks, 2017 was really about innovative approaches to delivering services. So now you're going to hear from 2 speakers about new ways we are connecting clients to employment opportunities that may have otherwise been unobtainable. So I'm going to introduce Alex Molnar and David Chinama to speak about the Arts Connection programs. Once they speak, we'll be turning over to Deputy Chief Debbie Higgins and Jimmy Trong to speak about the fire recruitment program. So over to you, Alex.
Thank you. So my name is Alex Molnar. It's great to be here. I'm a caseworker, and for the past year or so, I have been running the Art Connections program out of one of our field offices. The program started as a little pilot just in our office, and it was based on observed service gaps for newcomers who are professional artists who were coming through our doors looking for help in pursuing their careers, but not finding much help. And these were people who had established careers back home, who leaving their homes and coming to Canada have left everything, all of their social capital and years of work behind. So being a creative worker in Toronto is already hard enough. This is a gig economy and it's really difficult, but for a newcomer, especially difficult because newcomers are faced on top of settlement issues. They also have to rebuild their social capital and create new professional and social networks in the industry that highly values social currency. And so at the time of our pilot, we really didn't have any coordinated service response to provide any services to these individuals. So the pilot really set out to try and close this service gap and to provide some meaningful services and test some solutions and see if there is anything that can be done. So the pilot included 8 artists, professional artists from various countries, and they were all from the office that I come from. And so what we did is we provided them with some customized service navigation, and we provided it in a cohort of their peers so that they can be together and go through the process together and start forming some of those important social connections. The intention was to connect them to the right services at the right time, and so we provided orientation to the sector, professional development, financial assistance related to pursuing their careers, and individualized service planning for a period of 3 months. So the individual outcomes of these artists were great and many, but they mostly were centered on accessing grants, different sorts of entrepreneurship programs, business incubators, professional opportunities to show for the first time their work in Canada and even sell. And so these and many other outcomes that we've had really showed that although we were a really tiny program, we really aligned our work with important city strategies such as workforce development strategy, Toronto newcomer strategy, and creative capital gains. So emboldened by these great results, we kind of set out to try and expand the program. And what we did is we included 20 people in the second iteration. We included 20 people from across the city, all professional artists from different parts of the world. And our colleagues from economic development and culture, art services really played a crucial role here because they helped us, they provided essential labor market intelligence, and they also opened the doors for us to sector partnerships that were really important. So we formed really strong partnerships with our colleagues from Toronto Arts Council, from Toronto Foundation for the Arts, a Neighborhood Arts Network, North York Arts, University of Toronto, OCAD, as well as smaller community organizations, John Beard Gallery, Aiken, Artscape, and so on. So we also, in the second iteration, leveraged our own job incentive program to be able to provide some work-based learning opportunities to these participants. And again, the post-program assessment shows that participants feel better connected. They feel like they have the tools and resources they need to continue pursuing their careers here in Canada, and they feel that the program has helped them integrate socially and professionally in Toronto. Now, of course, this is not only about addressing a single group or 2 or 3 groups of individuals. It's really about increasing our overall capacity to service the arts and culture population or job seekers in Toronto. So our growing understanding of the sector, along with the newly formed partnerships and our connection with the art services and local art service organizations, are helping us increase our capacity to service this unique group of job seekers. And to anybody looking from the outside, maybe this wasn't obvious, but really this past year and a half has been marked with great increase in interest in the academia and different levels of government and community sector as to how to help newcomers who are creative workers, because they're so important to our creative economy. So we were really happy that our work was significant in this regard, and we continue to work with our community partners on providing better services sooner. And we are also providing feedback on our work and our results to our provincial partners. So through participation in Beyond Culture Shock policy discussions with the Ministry of Citizenship and Immigration and the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport, we were able to share some of our good work and inform their process, because they're looking at the ways of including some provisions for newcomer creative workforce into their inaugural Ontario culture policy. So that was really great. So we know that the work that we're doing is both timely and relevant, and we're so proud of what we're doing. We're proud of our participants who are also doing great, and we're so happy to have had the opportunity to share our work with the community, with sector partners, with different levels of government, and especially with all of you here today. That's been great. So thank you for that, but the story would not be complete if you did not hear from at least one of our participants. So today with me, I have David Shinyama. David is an accomplished professional artist originally from Zimbabwe, and he has twice won Zimbabwean National Merit Award. He was known as one of Africa's most promising young artists. His work was shown internationally and can be found today in many public and private collections in Africa and Europe. David has recently made Toronto his home, and we are very lucky to have him here. And in the process, he has had to leave all of his work and social capital behind. So he's here to tell you a little bit about his journey and the impact that our program has had on him as a new Torontonian and as a person pursuing a creative career in Canada.
Thank you. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the committee. I feel privileged to be here this afternoon to share with you the story of my journey since arriving here in Canada. 6 months ago, I was forced to leave my home country of Zimbabwe due to intimidation, due to state surveillance, and due to death threats. As an artist for the past decade, I had pledged to use my work to speak against what was happening back in my country, issues of corruption, issues of political intolerance, and a whole lot of things that have been happening in Zimbabwe. So this did not go well with certain elements within the country, so I had to leave, and I found myself here in Canada 6 months ago. Having arrived, that's when I realized of many challenges that I faced as a newcomer. I did not have a place to stay. I did not know anywhere to go, where to get assistance. I can admit that the first 2 months of since my arrival here was so challenging. I felt hopeless. At one moment, and at one point, I felt I'd made the wrong move coming here to Canada, and I contemplated going back home. Within that week, that's when I got a call from Alex. I did not know how she got my number.
She's a miracle worker, obviously.
I can't say that. Inviting me to join Art Connections if I was willing coming here, which is January this year. Well, to me, it's really something that I really wished and wanted. Because, I mean, during the first 2 months, I tried to reach out to different galleries, trying to introduce myself as an artist and trying to seek representation of my work, of which I never achieved anything. I never got any replies from any of the galleries that I tried. January, when I started at Connections, I can admit that it's been so remarkable being a part of a project that changes life. I've managed to meet other contemporaries like me who were in the same situation, and through discussions, through talking to each other, we realized that I'm not alone. And from the service that we've managed to get over the months that we have been attending, it's been so remarkable. It has given me hope to start to build again my career. As an artist back home in Zimbabwe, I had a very established career. I've had exhibitions in Germany, France, the US, and I've lived off as an artist. I've never worked ever since I left college in 2003. I've lived as a full-time artist. So coming here, having been here, I realized that I needed a job of which I did not have any other skills besides being an artist. The only thing that I knew was being an artist. So it was really challenging. Anyway, getting back to Art Connections, from January, for 3 months, we went through a lot of training, a lot of networking, a whole lot of things that make up an artist, some of which it would take you years to really get established. But within 3 months that I've been part of Art Connection, I've managed to at least relaunch and establish my career, being connected to different organizations like art galleries where I've managed to show my work. Like John Beer, I was able to be part of their exhibition and introducing my work to the Toronto community and seeing the response. It really encouraged me. It really gave me hope that I'll actually continue with my career as an artist. For the past 4 months of my participation, like I said, it's been remarkable. And just a moment, sorry, I flashed some time. As a program, the Art Connections, to most of us as newcomers, it has really changed my life, given me the hope to continue working and looking forward that I can at least contribute to the social being of being a part of Toronto. Sorry. Through the Art Connection program, I've managed to achieve a lot, which is like being able to, like I said, introduce my work to the Canadian audience. And I was also chosen to be part of the panel of the exhibition, and was able also to meet up with the Lieutenant Governor, and just getting to hear what she felt about my work was really an encouragement to me. I was also able to be introduced to a mentor. Well, coming from a country like Zimbabwe and being in a country like Canada, the way of art business is different. You cannot just do it on your own. You really need to have somebody who really understands how it's done in a place like this. So through Art Connections, I had that privilege of being connected to a mentor with whom we started we started to mentor me on different aspects, applying for grants, getting studio space, okay. Sorry, just a moment. English is my second language, so sometimes I tend to stammer. All right. So, in closing, I would say we need more of the project Art Connections doing, where artists like me who come with nothing but only their talent, with nothing only what they know to do, they can be given that opportunity to continue with their careers, to continue with their life, and to also contribute to the social and socio-economic being of the city. So I think there's a few that I can share with you at the present moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David.
I'm going to do my best from here. So I'm Deputy.
Can I just make a suggestion?
Yes.
You guys switch positions, and then you can go back if
we'll
he
switch back.
is going to speak.
That's a lot of movement.
That's easier. Thank you.
Sorry. I'm Deputy Fire Chief Debbie Higgins here on behalf of Chief Pegg, who was unable to attend. I'm just going to be brief because this story really belongs to Tess and belongs to Jimmy, but I do have some opening comments. So when Toronto Fire was approached by Tess to form a partnership that provides opportunities for Ontario Works recipients to fulfill their dreams of becoming firefighters, we were very happy to participate. One of Toronto Fire's goals through the TFS Inclusion Plan is to showcase TFS career opportunities to members of our community who had not previously considered employment with us. TFS partnered with Patricia Walcott and her team at TESS to help us achieve that goal. At present, the partnership with TESS is for operational firefighters only. Once students have made their way through the process, have completed their education, and meet all of the qualifications, Toronto Fire guarantees that we will interview them for an available position. The program has resulted in very successful outcomes to date. We had 10 students complete the program. 9 students have graduated. This is a program through Centennial College. 9 students have graduated and 1 is pending graduation. 2 graduates are currently employed in patient transfer and will be applying to the ongoing operational firefighter posting that is open now. 1 graduate is currently in the hiring process for the firefighter communications job call at Toronto Fire, and one graduate is in our current operational firefighter recruit class, and he's going to speak to you in a moment. Doesn't he look lovely? So Toronto Fire is looking forward to extending this partnership to include other Toronto Fire entry-level career opportunities such as call taker, dispatcher, inspections, public education, and we'll work with TESS to move this forward in the future. We're supportive of this meaningful initiative. We'll continue to grant interviews to all successful Ontario Works candidates that meet our minimum qualifications. So at this time, I'm going to introduce you to Jimmy Trong. Jimmy was successful in the program, and we're happy to announce that he will be graduating as an operations firefighter on May 24th. Jimmy's going to share his story with you. He's going to share his story with you, but then he needs to get back to the training academy because we pulled him out of training for this.
Let's be brief, Jimmy. You got to get back to work.
Thank you.
Welcome, Jimmy.
First off, I'd like to thank the Economic Development Committee, Councillor Thompson, Deputy Chief Higgins, and of course, Patricia Walcott here for this opportunity to share my story. My name is Jimmy Trong. I'm an operations firefighter recruit with Toronto Fire Services. Growing up in Regent Park, Toronto, I was never exposed to seeing people from my community in the firefighting profession. For me, it was unreachable. In my mind, it was unreachable because I wasn't seeing people from my community that I could relate to in that profession, and it was a job that I felt was too hard to get. I received support from so many people at the City of Toronto, the Pre-Service Fire College Program, and Toronto Fire Services. Before I learned about the firefighter preparation program at the City of Toronto, I didn't really know what I wanted to do career-wise, and I didn't really have any direction. In that program, I learned about firefighting as a career and what to expect in college and things of that sort. And after gathering all the info that I needed, I determined that firefighting was a career that I could picture myself doing, and it gave me the confidence to go all in, for sure. The college experience, it was incredible. From the instructors to my peers, I can confidently say that it was the most positive experience I've ever had in any educational setting. It helped shape who I am today, and it definitely pushed me to do better. When I would go home from school in my uniform, the kids in my community, they'd always come up to me and ask me, like, "Are you a firefighter yet?" And I tell them, "No, not yet, not yet, but don't worry, I got you." The kids would come up to me saying they want to be a firefighter like me, and I wasn't even a firefighter at the time yet. And that's where I think partnerships and support systems like the one I went through are extremely important, because it doesn't only affect me, it affects the younger generation as well, and it shows them that being somebody really is possible. And although the experience was a positive experience, it wasn't without its own challenges. The toughest part for me was my brother dying in a fire. He was very encouraging, and he supported me at the very beginning of the program, and as hard as it was to go through this journey, it helped me understand what may have happened, and it gave me closure, and I definitely needed that. This experience will help me be a better firefighter for sure, because I have the compassion and empathy to know what it feels like when a citizen in Toronto goes through what could be the worst day of their lives. My brother and my family, they're my inspiration. I want to be able to help my parents make a difference in my community, and because all the support I received, I'm now able to make those dreams a reality, and that's truly a blessing to me. Being a new recruit with the Toronto Fire Service is exciting. The training is challenging. I definitely got to go back, but I love it. From the chiefs to the captains at the fire services, they're all incredible, and they're a wealth of knowledge. And I look forward to serving the city, having a long career with the Toronto Fire Services. And again, to end it all off, I think it's extremely important for the city to create partnerships with colleges to help people navigate a career path, make connections, and reach their goals. I'm grateful for the support I received from everybody at the Toronto Fire Services, the pre-service college program, Centennial College, and City of Toronto. And I can't wait to see the kids in my community and tell them I did it.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions for the panel members? Councillor Frakadakis, question? You've got 5 minutes.
Thank you all very much for your presentation, in particular the lived experience and the training of the two gentlemen who've come in today to share their stories with us. Thanks so much. I was wondering, this is to Patricia. Patricia, if you could tell us, where are the programs referenced in the booklet that we've received today? I'm just trying to figure out the artist program, like,
where is it referenced, on what pages?
On page 23. Okay. There's one on art
sector.
Okay.
23 and 28.
23 and 28.
And the firefighter
28.
is on page 28.
Okay. Great. I just wanted to see where they were referenced, because I thought that they were like really tremendous stories that they've shared with us. I just have to say, not a question, but that beautiful piece of art.
Beautiful.
Wow. What's it called?
Different colors, one people.
So is that like the story of Zimbabwe?
Interpretation of Toronto.
Oh.
From being who I am to be a part of Toronto, that aspect of different people coming together in one place but still maintaining their being, to maintaining where they come from.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
I think Mary wants to buy it.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Okay, seeing none. And I think that I would just like to ask if there's any speakers. Members to speak? Okay. Councillor Hart?
Just very briefly, I actually had quite a few questions, but I'm almost speechless after that. Just want to thank you all. This is the best feel-good presentation I've had since I've been in this role, and just thought it was amazing. And I can understand your experience from Regent Park. I grew up close to there, so that hit home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hart. Anyone else? Okay. Let me just speak to this, but we have a speaker on this issue, but I would just like to speak to this item and then have the speaker come up, and then we will just conclude the item. So just to not having to bring you back up again. I just wanted to say that I'm so delighted with respect to the report that we had, and earlier on we had a press conference speaking to the issue around the fire apiece and so on. It was probably about 4 or 5 years ago when I guess we had a budget item dealing with the firefighters and so on, and I looked up and I saw a sea of firefighters, and I thought, wow, it's pretty cool. However, a moment later I thought, wow, it's not so cool, because it really didn't reflect the identity and the diversity of the City of Toronto. And I moved the motion about working together and so on, and one of the things that we had discovered with Chief Speed, who said, well, look, you know, we want to do all these things, but many of the candidates actually can't afford to pay for the program and so on. And he said, well, you know, here's what Vancouver's doing, and here's what some of the other jurisdictions doing. And we thought, well, you know, we're a city. How can we find ways to address some of these issues and so on? And I know that we've had discussion with Patricia and her team and others and so on about helping to ensure that we don't actually amputate the spirit of those who want to really succeed. And it doesn't matter what their particular plight or condition is. If they are interested in being helped, we've got to find a vehicle to actually help them and so on. And so while we have 2 of the successful candidates and or recipients of the program initiative and so on, there has been a lot of work that's been taking place. And so obviously a lot of times people say, well, government, what are you doing? How are you helping us? And so on. And the view, I note that the media is really not here to represent these stories, right? Because it's, you know, it is what it is. But we have to tell the good stories. So I would encourage members of council to put some of this information on your website, to get some of these information out. And I think I'm going to suggest to David, we have to figure out a way how we can actually post your work here at City Hall, because I think that piece really speaks to the diversity that we talk about, we cherish and we celebrate. And really, you know, I've had a number of discussions with the mayor about these sort of things, and it's not about simply just talking about these things, it's about delivering, right? So we're actually backing this up with respect to tangible policies being put in place. And I'm happy that he actually champions and supports all these things, as does every single member here in our community. And the amazingly talented men and women who are part of TESS and part of our EDC group. This is the type of work that's being delivered. This is the type of thing that these men and women who work in this space live for every single day. These are the types of things and the activities that they do. They come from different places around the world, but they understand. And it requires a keen sense of understanding and appreciation how you help that one person and the series of person that you can help to make their lives better. We are a welcoming city. We're a city of diversity. When we look at the numbers, and Pat, I've looked at some of your work that you've done where you say, well, 63% of the people that we're helping are people newcomers, and 37% are local, et cetera. And then we look at the population of the city of Toronto, we say that 50.5% are diverse people who come from places outside of our borders and so on. And so what are we doing? Well, we actually have resources, perhaps not enough, but we have talented men and women who are helping young people, helping newcomers coming in and so on. So for that, I want to say on behalf of this committee, thank you so much for what you do, because we know that time and time again, there's a structure, there's a foundation, and there's an effort to actually help to change lives, has been the messaging that we've heard from David and Jimmy in essence. And Jimmy and David are role models, and I know that, Jimmy, when you walk down the street in your neighborhood and those young people see you, they're looking up to you, and you want to be a shining, and you are a shining example not only to your family but to the community as a whole. And that's what we all should be striving to do, to make this city a better place. We hear about other places, but this country and this city is the best place in the entire world. This is a living example as to what we're all about. So thank you, Pat, to you and your team. Thank you very much. So I have one speaker on this particular item. We have Derek Moran. Pardon me? Oh, the price just went up on the painting. You have 5 minutes, sir, and you may begin.
I just want to say, by me speaking at this meeting, this shall not be deemed to be in any way my consent, express or implied, and doing so is fraud. God bless Her Majesty the Queen, and long live Her Majesty the Queen. So I'm here to speak on the basic income mentioned in this report. Because there's not really a lot of information out there about what this basic income is really, about. So I just wanted to mention that on YouTube, there's this video of Premier Wynne not answering Patrick Brown's question on where this basic income money will come from. The title of the video, for anyone who wants to watch it, is Wynne announces free income using free money. In the description it says, Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne refuses to answer the very simple question as to where the money will come from to pay for her newly announced $150 million basic income pilot project. Get ready for another tax in Ontario. So in this video, Patrick Brown first says that a minister of the Crown, he doesn't say which one, said, I'm actually not quite sure where it's coming from. Then Patrick Brown says, so Mr. Speaker, can the Premier tell us where the money is coming from for that announcement regarding the basic income program? Premier Wynne then evades, dodges, deflects, just like we've come to expect from all of our elected officials who live off the rest of us, as it's we the people who keep Premier Wynne fed, clothed, and housed. So why would we ever expect an honest and truthful answer out of her? So just so you all know, take notice, this is the definition from the Dictionary of Canadian Law, citing the Donovan Waters Law of Trust in Canada text for ministerial duty, a duty involved in operating a trust, example, keeping of accounts or hiring an agent like a solicitor or valuer. Now you know why they call him Minister Charles Sousa, for example. So at the budget consultation a while back, I actually wanted Councillor Carroll, I asked her to thank Premier Wynne for me when she got the chance. Because one good thing that Premier Wynne has done is on the newer birth certificates that everyone gets, Premier Wynne has actually given us some semblance of proper notice as to what it actually is. And just, it's a lot of small print there, but what she's added to it is this very important line. This certificate is a valuable foundation identity document. So the birth certificate is really a document that identifies a valuable foundation. And I love looking up these legal words that the lawyers who write this stuff use. So I opened up my Black's Law 9th edition dictionary. And valuable is defined as worth a good price, having financial or market value. Foundation, a fund established for charitable, educational, religious, research, or other benevolent purposes. An endowment. Endow, to give money or property to, especially as a source of continuing or permanent income, basic income. Endowment, a gift of money or property to an institution, such as a university, for a specific purpose, especially one in which the principal is kept intact indefinitely, and only the interest income, again that word income, from that principal is used. Now, what I would encourage Premier Wynne to do now that she's out there trying to, beat Doug Ford as the next premier of this province, she's only halfway. She needs to finish the job, because this is what a birth certificate looks like from province of British Columbia. Notice there in the left-hand corner it says revenue receipt, and in the middle there someone covered up, but that's a CUSIP number. CUSIP number starts with a letter, ends with a letter. It's evidence of a security. And in the bottom right-hand corner, it says for treasury use only, but it doesn't say that on the back of one from province of Ontario. So I broke down the wording again using my Black's Law Dictionary. Revenue, gross income, there's that word again, or receipts, revenue, annual profit, income, all public money collected or due, receipt, an acknowledgement in writing that one received money or property, a warehouse receipt, receipt, the act of receiving something, my receipt of the document was delayed by 2 days, a written acknowledgement that something has been received, keep the receipt for the gift, usually something received, income, revenue receipt, includes all public money except capital receipts, treasury, a place where treasure is stored, the fiscal department of a government which controls payment of public money as directed by the legislature or House of Commons. And there's two maxims of law that...
Thank you, sir. We're at the 5 minutes. I'll ask you now to seize your comment. No, there's no wrap-up. You're at 5 minutes. We're done. Any questions?
Oh, wait a second. You told an earlier people...
Are there any questions for Mr. Moran?
I thought the law. I thought the law applies to everyone.
No questions for you, sir. Thank you. We're at 5 minutes. We're done. Thank you.
Take notice the Crown is a surety for Mr. Derek Moran.
We are now moving to ED 29.1. Oh, yes, right, we're moving on. So we are going to receive the presentation from staff. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. All right, so we are moving now to ED 29.1. Sorry, point 2. BIA initiatives in traditional industrial areas. I'd like to ask Dr. Lou Pillman, Chair of the Board for the Dukes Heights BIA, to come forward, and also Mr. Tanis, member of the Board of Directors for Duke Heights. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm glad that you're here. I'd like to maybe ask the folks that are in the room who are speaking maybe just to take that conversation outside so we can proceed with the balance of the agenda. You may begin, Mr. Pillman.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor Thompson, for the honor and the opportunity to speak to you today. I have my partner here, Alex Manous, and I very much appreciate that. I also appreciate George Spezza from the Economic Development for visiting our facility and allowing us this opportunity. I have two hats. I'm a family physician in the province of Ontario, practicing here in Toronto, and I'm also the chair of the local Duke Heights BIA. I think it's fantastic what we've accomplished. We couldn't have done it without the help of Councillor Perruzza, who's sitting right here. Thank you very much, Anthony, for being involved. Joe Pantalone, who's sitting behind me, and Matthias Dedavidas. So by being a physician and being a BIA chair allows me the opportunity to see what happens on the street with healthcare, which is one of our biggest challenges, and what happens in an area that was previously economically depressed. So we've created a video to show you some of these concepts, and then I'll address you again shortly.
I had the privilege of being a member of Toronto City Council for 30 years, including being chair of the Economic Development Planning and Deputy Mayor. I've seen the Champagne Centre in action, and I'm amazed how it's taken an older industrial building, underutilized, and turned it into a modern employment hub. And this kind of places are needed more and more, and need to be supported, encouraged, and replicated in other parts of Toronto.
High above the city of Toronto reveals the history of our neighborhoods and the role they played in our past. What was once a bustling industrial area in the 50s, Downsview had become like other economically depressed sectors of the city, vacant buildings, shuttered businesses, unsafe streets, and a lack of jobs and services for local residents. But the tide is changing in Downsview. A new model is gaining momentum, bringing with it economic vitality and increased employment, and it's only getting better. On the site of the old Canada Dry bottling plant now stands the Champagne Centre, the first development of its kind. The concept is as simple as it is powerful. Anchored by a full-service medical mall offering diagnostic services, labs, endoscopy, cardiology, a cataract eye facility, a center for autism, and more, the center has created a model by which the city can transform stagnant areas into jobs, tax revenue, and vibrant places people want to be. While the shopping trend of destination malls has experienced a shift online, the Champagne Centre offers services that continue to draw consumer traffic. One cannot buy surgery online or add a pelvic exam to cart. This simple fact is translated into over 1,200 visitors per day coming from all parts of the city for prescribed medical services, making the Champagne model a magnet for jobs and economic revitalization. Not only do these patients bring life to the other businesses at the center, they bring life to the entire area. The Champagne model is now beyond the test. It works. Let's take a closer look at the numbers. With North York General Hospital's decision to build a 25,000 square foot outpatient facility at Champagne Centre and the existing Surrey Place Autism Facility, it further proves the growing confidence in this innovative development. A development that was created leveraging zero investment by the city, it has become an economically viable solution for the city's need to revitalize similar areas in Scarborough, Etobicoke, and Greater Southern Ontario. But to better understand what makes this model so successful, we need to take a closer look at the nature of patient care.
So all of us know that our healthcare system is a bit fragmented. And I've brought a poster along here just to show you that all of us know a senior that has mobility issues, or perhaps somebody that's had an accident or a trauma. And I'd like you to imagine you're a busy person and you're in your office and you get a phone call from your mother and she says, "You know, son, my knee hurts this morning. I just can't move to the stove." You drop everything, you cancel your afternoon, and you go pick up your mother, you take her to the doctor. You spend a few hours waiting in the waiting room. Once you get into the doctor orders an x-ray. Now you've got to put your mother back in the car with the knee mobility problem, take her to an x-ray. The x-ray result comes, then now you need a specialist. The specialist is halfway across town in 2 months. While your mother's at home with the pain, she calls you again and says, "Son, I've fallen. My knee hurts even more. I was waiting in line."
Now you've got to take her to the emergency room. You take her there, hallways are full with patients waiting for beds because there are not enough beds. Maybe if we had taken care of the problem properly, initially, and she wasn't at home, maybe we could have avoided that accident. Not to mention the amount of time it took in between appointments, phone calls, caregivers, driving, parking, and all those issues that we're trying to address here. So the concept here is very simple. How can we make healthcare efficient? And healthcare has become inefficient because we work in silos. So the family doctor makes a referral to a specialist, the specialist works in his own, the x-ray's on his own, all that involves traffic, movement, parking, and so on. And we believe we have an idea which is called the healthcare village, and we'd like to present that to you.
What is a health village? The concept begins with medical tourism, in which people travel vast distances to experience a new model of medicine. We've brought together a wide array of services in one convenient location, with free parking, centralized booking, efficient access to services with reduced waiting times. In one day, a patient coming from Collingwood can get all his medical needs attended to in what would take 6 months back home. This improves health outcomes, reduces death, all while creating jobs and improving the economy. Whether you're in Toronto or North Bay, the concept of the Champagne Centre's one-stop solution is highly attractive to long and short-term medical stays. Imagine reducing the need for Wheel-Trans, multiple locations, and a cumbersome booking system. And now imagine the job creation. When caregivers can simply take short-term visitors down an elevator for all their required diagnostic and specialist appointments, it means fewer patients at our hospitals and more jobs in the communities that need it most. We have the rare opportunity to leverage this new model of revitalization to address stagnating employment in disadvantaged areas. But there are challenges at play. Appropriate zoning, outdated parking requirements, and definitions of office use and employment utilization ratios. With no definition for assisted living seniors and patients with mobility restrictions, the city is missing out on an enormous increase in jobs and tax revenue. With the help of municipalities, these challenges can quickly transform into groundbreaking opportunities. The key to reinvigorating the lackluster areas of our city now has a model to address numerous issues. Improving employment in disadvantaged areas and the growing pressure on our healthcare system can now be solved with a single, tested, and successful model that breathes new life into our city. Now all we need is your support. Let's build a brighter future for Toronto.
Just to show you my background, I came to Toronto as an immigrant in 1973.
You may want to go back to the microphone, Doctor.
Enough to go to junior high school in North York. I went to Fisherville Junior High School, Newtonbrook High School, and subsequently to U of T Medical School, where I graduated with honors, and I'm very pleased to be here. It's been an honor to be in Canada, as the previous speakers mentioned to you. Throughout that process, I saw the challenges in healthcare. So when I was an intern, I purchased a small home next to Branson Hospital, and I would live upstairs, and I had the office downstairs. And gradually, with the help of my family, I purchased 2 more homes across the street and built my first medical building, and then another few homes down the street and built a second medical building, and then the third medical building. And I realized the problem with the traditional medical building is that if you saw a doctor in one medical building, but you needed an x-ray in another medical building, you had to get the person into their wheelchair, down the elevator, into the car, just to go across the street. And that process with Wheel-Trans could take you hours. So then I sold all that, and luckily with the help of my partner, we realized that what we really need is a place where people can efficiently access our healthcare system. And that's what we've created in the Champagne Centre. Now, as we were doing that, what we didn't realize is not only we were creating a healthcare alternative, we were creating a magnet for jobs and employment and vitality. And Councillor Thompson, when he came and he said, Lou, you guys don't have a healthcare facility. You're a revitalizing engine of this neighborhood. And with the help of the BIA and Councillor Perruzza and the various people here today, we're trying to show you 2 things. Yes, we can get people healthier and we can get them better. but we can do it in a way that attracts them to an area that previously wasn't doing as well. And unlike most businesses where they actually have to reach into their pocket and buy something, here they have a health cart already in their pocket, and now we just make it easier for them to access. All these services are covered by OHIP with 450 spots of parking. So they can come there, open 6 days a week, to see 65 odd specialists and get various diagnostic tests. So we're attracting a lot of people from even outside Toronto, but people from within Toronto are happy to come as well. So what we'd like to do is address the concept of the Health Village success story. On the screen there, you see what we're looking for. We need a new zoning definition. I'm not a zoning lawyer, but I know that being a BIA, we need people to work there. We don't want people to come in and build condos and leave. And in fact, the reason we've underlined non-residential is because this is not a developer trying to change an employment area into condos. In fact, we would never build condos because for us to recreate 70 physicians and all that diagnostics was too valuable to have people just moving into condos. But we do need a definition that allows us a way for people, as they move the continuum of health, as they get sicker, they may need longer times to stay. They may need more tests. So when they come, we need a better zoning definition. We need better updated parking ratios. We keep going back to the city and keep going to adjustments to say how come we need more parking and how we can deal with those issues. We need better definitions for employment and office. Recently, people have started looking at office employees as true employees and computers and IT technology as real jobs. Previously, in areas such as ours, they weren't looked at as real employment. And finally, tax incentives and inducements and job creation, those are what we're trying to do, but we could certainly use your help. Finally, I'd like to thank everybody here again for working with us, and I'll take your questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation, Dr. Pillman. Visiting Councillor, Councillor Peruzza, questions? None? Okay. Any members of the committee? Okay. What? I'm going to start with Councillor Hart, and then I'll come to you, Councillor. Councillor Hart.
Just a quick question. Most of the issues you've flagged for us seem to be planning-related issues. Wondering if you've talked to the chief planner, any planning staff, or the Planning and Growth Committee about this.
The planning department's been very supportive of everything we're doing. I believe the challenges is that their framework is somewhat outdated in our environment, and it seems to be a patchwork across the city. For example, our site used to be a bottling plant, and it had all kinds of different employment ratios and limitations that we currently are facing, and yet there's no formal mechanism to change it over into a modern era. Now we have to actually, every time we want to do anything, we have to now go through either a community adjustments, rezoning, site plan approval, and so we're thinking if we are having these challenges, if we could uniform that throughout the city and create a definition where others are trying to do the same thing, it would make it a lot easier for this to be accomplished in other places across the city.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Hart. Councillor Frakadax.
Councillor Hart actually addressed my issues because most of your issues are land use planning related.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, to speak? Councillor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Pliam, Ala, Tunis, and some of the others. Former Councillor Pantaloni. We have.
Let's build.
Pardon?
That wasn't me. It was just magic.
Oh, okay. Mattia Dudavidis, the Dukites BIA. They're really sort of putting the employment district to the fore, and I've represented this area now for a number of years, and I have to tell you, we turn our minds to it now more often because of all of that, and because of some of the things that have been created here at the Champagne Center. This site hasn't reached its full potential. So when I look at this, and this is something I've never really talked to them about. But I look at this site, and I look at the former York Finch Hospital site, which is now reopened as a hospital. York Finch Hospital is completely surrounded by an industrial area. It butts up against an industrial area. you would never think of that, any zoning issues related to the York Finch Hospital. People have gone there over the years and have stayed. Some have stayed for long periods of time. At the hospital per se, very, very sensitive type uses butting up against an industrial district. This area, because it's not the York Finch Hospital, it's not the provincial government, it's not us as the public, is all of a sudden, faced with all kinds of barriers in terms of being able to sort of expand its full and reach its employment potential, not only for the site itself, but for the neighborhood as a whole. I, like many of you, preside over an area that has a large industrial area. And you all know what's happened to our industrial districts. Some years back in the early 90s, some of the definitions were changed about what constituted employment. And as the GST, high interest rates, and free trade basically all merged at once on the scene, there was all of a sudden a vacuum created in heavy industrial commercial employment, and a lot of those plants were sort of left vacant. Now what we have a large proliferation of used car lots and churches and all kinds of other activities. Warehousing is a big component, and they're very, very low employment uses, right? So I think we're sort of at the threshold of something new, and it's wonderful to see that we're able to turn our minds. And Councillor Hart's question was very much to the point in terms of these appear to be very much planning type questions: zoning, official plan, parking, and all this other stuff. That's all planning related. The problem is that the employment lands designation and official plan is very, very specific, and it's sort of and it creates a bit of a box, and it says, well, that doesn't fit. Now, if we were building a hospital there, for example, right, all those rules are out the window. Right, they don't exist anymore, and all of a sudden you can bring in all these sensitive, what would be considered sensitive uses that would be incompatible with what we would, deem to be employment uses. All right? So and wouldn't immediately be considered. In fact, your department, the Economic Development Department, would be the first to stand up and say, "Hang on a sec, no, you can't do that." Right? Well, I mean, not your meaning. The department that this committee presides over, right, and that develops the rules for. And that's why it's here, because it has to come, sort of the thinking around this, and I believe that Chairman Thompson is going to be moving a motion to refer to staff for some thinking in terms of how might this site reach its potential, right, and essentially not impact adversely on the employment uses and the employment lands that we all want to preserve, because we absolutely need them. So turning our minds to that question is a very, very good thing to do, and absolutely planning needs to be part of that process, and I believe that the motion asks that the Economic Development Department and the Planning Department, sort of come together in their thinking around how these types of sites might be able to do that. And by the way, this is a model that could be replicated across the city. And I encourage any of the members of the committee that haven't been to the Champagne Center to one day when they're in the neighborhood drop in and just take a walk around and see what it is that they've created here and what they've done here, and then ask yourself the question: wouldn't you like to see that happen in one of your employment districts?
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Peruzzo. Anyone else to speak? Okay, I have a motion. The motion is that the Economic Development Committee refer the item to the General Manager of Economic Development and Culture with the request that the General Manager of Economic Development and Culture consult with the Chief Planner and Executive Director of City Planning on all elements of the proposal and report back in the first quarter of 2019. I have visited the Champagne Center, and I think it's very innovative and really interesting facility. I've seen the patients, actually. I've had a chance to see some of the doctors and the quality of the doctors that are there, actually, and the facility itself in general. And the fact that North York General has seen fit that they would like to have 25,000 square feet of space there for their outpatient facilities and so on, I think that it really speaks volume. But it does have a bit of a conflict, and I think, Dr. Thielman, you've identified that fact and so on, and you're saying, we get this. And I think there's a new sense of innovation that you're bringing to the table when you talk about the need of seniors and so on, mothers or someone calling sons and daughters, and of course everything else has to stop because you've got to attend to their needs and so on. It's a medical issue, and so it is an opportunity for us to engage, and this motion seeks to do that. You can't make any particular promises at this particular point in time. We have a lot of pressure with respect to our employment lands and so on, and at the same time, there are we have pressures from varying religious organizations and others and so on who want to put facilities in place, and we have to respect and respond to that. And I know that there are provincial legislation that's obviously seeking to ensure that we protect the employment lands, and we have to do that. We've got to create the jobs, people got to work somewhere. But I think what you're saying is that, hey, we are looking at high paying jobs that are very innovative, and jobs that are require significant professionalism and associated with that, medical facilities and practitioners to provide the services that are actually needed. I looked at the calendar yesterday, and I actually got older by a day. And so we're all getting older as we move forward and so on. And the question is, how do we facilitate the needs and respond and so on? This is an appropriate way, at least for consideration. We're asking staff to take a look at it and so on, and in conjunction with all the different departments who will have to have a say in this, and be very mindful of the need to, at the same time, protect the employment lands and so on. So I'm delighted that you're able to come and present it, and I would encourage anyone, and particularly members of council, to actually go and visit your facility, because I think that you will be in for a great surprise in that we hear about the delay in providing medical services to those who are in need. And we see the sort of flow and the way that the building is designed for the contiguous movement. And so I think that's a real testament to you as well. And I suspect that there are other areas that are coming to see and watch what you are doing there. And I suspect that they more likely want you to replicate what you have elsewhere and so on. And I know that in our communities, in our cities, there's a great demand and great need for medical services and so on. Just this week, I had someone call me and says, I need a family doctor. And we have a facility in Ellesmere, and we said, well, perhaps you can call the doctor there, because there's might be an opportunity and so on. So there's always that, and I've had several people over the last few months come to me and say, I need a family doctor. And they will call us. I don't know if any other members of council have actually had that situation, but there is a requirement, and so we have to respond to the need and so on. So let's see where we go. The staff is going to be directed by this committee to take a look, and of course they'll be reaching out to you and work with you. I know George Betsy and I did visit, and we were quite impressed with the visit. I'd asked the mayor also to come and visit you, and I know that they were trying to work with his schedule. I don't know when that will actually happen. And of course you have obviously the gentleman that I think is has such a reputation with respect to this council and this city, former Deputy Mayor Pantaloni, who's working with your BIA, and the other team members as well. I think it's really important that we recognize that his knowledge is actually helpful to us in terms of some of the things that we're doing and some of the things that you're doing, because I know that he would never actually steer us in the wrong direction. I can actually vouch for that and so on. So I thank him for that and so on. So thank you very much. And this is a motion. All those in favor? Oppose? Carried? Okay, thank you. Motion to adjourn? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried? Thank you very much. And I'd like to just simply thank the staff for all their continued work. Thank you.